probably heard about Mensa, that mysterious club for people with sky-high IQs. But what does it really feel like inside? How hard is it to join in? And what does it mean to be in a community built entirely around intelligence? Today, I want to share not just the facts, but my own story, what it feels like to take the test, to get in and to meet minds that make Mensa what it is. Hey everyone, welcome to Books with Frank. It has been a pretty long time since I've uploaded, but some of you might be wondering why. Well, it's because I headed off to Brisbane. However, this was no ordinary holiday trip. It was a trip to the Australian Mensa Conference, or AMC. With a speech to prepare, articles to write, and tests to finish, time slipped in between my fingers. I haven't had enough time to come back around for my video, but now I've cleared out my schedule. So back to the original question, what is Mensa and how can you enter? Those are some of the questions we'll be exploring in today's video. However, the effort to create this video you're watching is humongous, so I'd really appreciate it if you guys simply scroll down and click the big red subscribe button. It will inspire me to create even more videos like this one, and I'll dive into all your favorites. This is the only favor I'll ever ask you. Thank you so much for your help. So, what is Mensa? Well, Mensa is the world's largest and oldest high IQ society. It brings together exceptionally intelligent individuals from all across the globe, and it's in 90 different countries with around 150,000 members. It has been around for over 8 decades, but it still shows both its founders' ambitious visions and the evolution of the organization. The story of Mensa begins in 1945, nearly 80 years ago, in post-war England, with an encounter on a train. Two strangers discover themselves seated across each other. Roland Beryl, a then 45-year-old Australian-born barrister living in England who never really practiced law but lived off investments, and Dr. Lancelot Lyle Ware, a then 30-year-old British scientist and lawyer who worked at the National Institute for Medical Research during World War II. Their conversations began awkwardly, with Beryl asking Ware if he was reading Hansard, the UK parliamentary proceedings, to which Ware responded, obviously, showing Beryl the title. Despite this uncomfortable start, the conversation actually flowed. Beryl, who had applied for Oxford University but unfortunately had been rejected, claimed that he could tell if someone was highly intelligent by just observing them. Ware, who had learned about IQ testing during his scientific work, proposed a more scientific approach to IQ tests. They also discussed psychologist Cyril Burt's recent broadcast on radio suggesting that highly intelligent individuals should meet to solve post-war problems. Therefore, on March the 11th, but then the pair shared addresses. On March the 11th, 1946, the pair met again. Ware administered the Cattell intelligence test to Beryl, and to Ware's surprise, Beryl scored in the top 1% of the population. They did plan to make a club for highly intelligent individuals like themselves, and 6 months later, on October the 1st, 1946, they had officially founded Mensa. After Beryl returned to Australia, he naturally brought Mensa back to the country, creating Mensa Australia. If you want more information about Mensa, the link is in the description. To get into Mensa, the requirements are very harsh. You need to score in the top 2% of the population. That means an IQ of around 132. The average is only 90 to 100 though. If you're at 110, that's considered high average. 120, superior, and 130 is very superior. However, above 130 is in the top 2.2% of the population. And if you're above 145, that's around above the 99.9% of the population. The scores simply just do not go on from there because it's practically considered impossible. This score, therefore, is very difficult to achieve. So if you get in, you've officially earned bragging rights. But the benefit of getting into Mensa? Nothing much. I suppose later on you can have a better chance at finding a job, but for a kid, it's more bragging rights, confidence, and meeting people like yourself. You see, many of the smart people here in Mensa do have the condition ADHD, which might subject them to bullying at school, and no one might be quite similar to them. However, once you're in Mensa, you're being with many people very similar to you, and therefore that might make you feel like you belong. I first learnt about Mensa thanks to my mum. One of the channels she had been subscribed to explained what Mensa was. That's why I told you to subscribe. Channels can give people good ideas. My mum told me about it and I wanted to do it because I thought I would so be able to get in and I was able to tell everyone I'm the smartest person here. Because back then I was 9, I was full of confidence. I thought there was no way I wouldn't make it in. Research told me that the Mensa test was an IQ test, which doesn't change over time since IQ is innate, and that made me even more confident. Surely I'm the smartest person around. The test was a 2-hour test though, and it's for 10 plus year olds. No matter what gender, race or age though, if you're over 10, you can do it. I was pretty sure I could do well until my mum found me some practice tests from Mensa. After doing one of them, I received the result of, drumroll please, 90. This is the average IQ, around 40 points below the 132 needed to get in. I felt ridiculous wanting to do the test with this kind of result, and my mum and I both laughed. However, my mum told me to treat it just like a normal test, like NAPLAN. This helped me push forward and do the test. On the day of the tests, my mum said farewell to me and headed to the Monash University's library cafe. The test was held at Monash University Caulfield campus, which was around 30 minutes away from my home. We were in a dull white room, but the excitement made it really interesting. We each got a wide white table, and no one was next to each other, and the place was silent. There were around 20 people around, and I knew this was very serious looking at all the people's expressions. I did notice 2 kids, like around the age of myself, but the rest of the people were so much older than me, and my fear grew by 100 times. These people would be so much smarter than me, I thought. I thought this was only for a test for younger people who wanted to use the result as brags. But I didn't actually realize all people from all ages wanted to do it. There were people from all kinds of backgrounds and genders as well, but there were a few more males than females. At the front, the chairman, John Mark, gave us a welcome and explained the rules. All I remembered was that it was a 2-hour test. I wasn't allowed to do anything but answer questions non-stop. No break in between at all, no chance to look outside, because it would be really fast-paced. Meanwhile, my mom was feeling even more nervous than I was, and even regretful for signing me up, because she thought that I might never want to do a test again in fear of failing again. Remember, I was only 10. She thought, was this a little bit too early? Back in the testing room, it felt a little bit weird to have all the adults doing the same test as I was. However, once I began, all feelings other than my mind racing were gone, including the need to go to the toilet. There was no time to be nervous. The test was more like 7 different tests, but with no break in between. Each had a different number of questions and time, so it was really hard to adjust. The test was really fast-paced. It was kind of an edu test, but 50 times more questions and 50 times less time. The results would be broken down into 3 main things: fluid intelligence, crystallized intelligence, and quantitative intelligence. These weren't things like how many questions you got correct, meaning it doesn't really matter even if you do the test again and again and again and know all the answers. They just want to know how you got the answer. If these things got you the necessary score, well then you would have made it in. Otherwise, they would check your other parts and slowly add to see if you made it. Once the test was finally over, I received a Mensa pencil. I really wanted to say to everyone that I deserved this. I found the test to actually not be that very difficult, so my mum was pretty chill. Finally, the test was over and I could forget all about the whole thing about Mensa. However, if you're less than 10, you can still do a Mensa test like this. Remember Beryl? Well, Beryl claimed, and it's true, people can know if someone is intelligent by just observing them. The cost is much higher though, and a psychologist observes you. You do have a few more questions, but it's much less of a time. Around 3 weeks later, my results arrived, and my jaw literally fell to the floor. I had gotten an IQ of 155, around 20 IQ points ahead of what was needed to get in. Take that, you 90 IQ score. And just like that, I was in Mensa. Each year, the Mensans in Australia meet in the capital city. I really enjoyed last year's AMC in Sydney, and I knew the fun would be passed down to here as well. This year, the Australian Mensa Conference, or AMC, was held in Brisbane. It was here that I gave my presentation on books, but more on that later. For the AMC, we went on many tours around Brisbane. On the Friday of the weekend event, we headed to Noosa, stopping many times on the way there. On the journey, I got a snake skin from one of the workers at a small nature museum, which we stopped at, and I donated that to my science teacher at school. The beach at Noosa had some of the softest sand I've ever seen, and lots of sea jellies scattered on shore. The sea jellies really deserve their names. They look like clear jelly in the floor, but in the shape of a flower, and a little bit rougher. The sand felt like it was as soft as silk, and my feet, once submerged in the sand, felt like it was in a beanbag of hot, comfortable sun. It was one of the best beaches ever. We also got to stop at an amazing chocolate shop, one of the best in history, I say, with one of the best iced chocolates ever, making even me, who don't even really have a sweet tooth, want to get a second. We also headed to a ginger factory with a train that circled all around. Literally, Charlie and the Ginger Factory. By the way, don't try ginger chocolate. It's not a fun experience. We also had a huge group dinner. In the dinner, I solved all the available puzzles there, and we attempted a team challenge. The challenges were extremely difficult, and there were some moments that made me laugh until my belly hurt, including the human knot, where everyone had to get out of a knot, but no one really knew how to get out, and there were some chaotic moments when people tried to untangle each other. On the Saturday, the big meeting was held. Here, all the volunteers did their presentations relating to this year's theme, Mensa Swallows Universe. My presentation was dubbed How Books Swallow the Universe. In the presentation, I talked about 3 main parts: the history of books, the comparisons of books to ebooks and audiobooks, and what the future of books might look like. If you guys want to see it, put book presentation in the chat below. My favorite presentation was a presentation on how to stay lazy. It showed how to minimize the work done and to remove the useless parts of your project, allowing you to do more. It also showed why being lazy is helpful. It sure helped build up my working standard. On the last day, we went on another tour around Brisbane. This time we headed to a math museum. It was named the Mathema Gallery. Its creators, Dr. Calvin Irons and Dr. Rosemary Irons, have over 120 years of experience collecting books, artifacts, original teaching resources, and the gallery really showed their efforts. The gallery is the only venue in Australia with the sole focus on mathematics, and it's the first mathematics museum in the whole Southern Hemisphere. With its amazing white circular shape, I loved it. Despite the dizzying trip there, I almost vomited. There was a merchandise store in the corner, and for us math lovers, it was as if we had suddenly turned into a mouse inside a whole cheese factory. If it was possible, I would have taken the whole store back home. However, this is not plausible, but my mum tried her best to make my dream come true. She purchased, and get ready because this is quite a long list, a Rubik's Cube with shapes on it, a maths t-shirt, a maths puzzle, shape puzzle, a Tower of Hanoi puzzle, a calendar, books, and most importantly, a clock with sums on it right above my head here. The sums will all add up into the hour. The books I chose weren't really my thorough choice because I love all math books, but I just wanted Dr. Calvin's signature. The museum helped me understand a lot more about the origins of math. After a short lunch break at the hotel, we headed off to another viewing site, Mount Coot-tha. Mount Coot-tha had an amazing view of the city. There were coin-operated binoculars, but I didn't have a coin. Luckily, someone else put a coin into the binoculars and let me have a go. The buildings looked like grey trees and the fog around them had disappeared kind of, allowing me to see much more of the city, shimmering under the sun. It was like chocolate fudge for my eyeballs. We also enjoyed some mouth-watering ice cream and jumped back on the bus. Finally, we headed to the St. Thomas Planetarium. You walk in and bam, tons of model planets, walls with everything possible to learn about space. It was like Science Works here in Melbourne, but only focusing on space. After a few minutes of examination of the items around us, we headed into a big cinema-like room, packed with Hoyt's Lux level recliners and a ceiling that could turn into stars. We watched about how vast the universe was and constellations that humans could see, piecing together the shapes of stars. It also made me feel like a tiny bacterium in the vast void of the universe, but with endless possibilities. My overall thoughts? Well, the AMC has a big symbolic meaning to myself. In fact, every Mensa event does. Being able to meet people like yourself and being able to learn new things with them feels like heaven to me. We understand each other, come up with new ideas, and we can inspire each other. The perfect dream. When I think about the two strangers on the train 80 years ago, I realize this was exactly what they dreamed of. People meeting and sharing ideas. I encourage all of you to give the IQ test a go. Who knows? The next member of Mensa might be you. Thanks for watching Books with Frank. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and smash the notification bell. I'll see you until the next one. Meanwhile, don't forget to explore and stay curious.